Welcome to the Launch Family Podcast, where we believe raising kids starts with raising ourselves. I'm your host, Jessica Shelley, former teacher, mom of six, and a passionate advocate for helping families cut through the chaos of information overload. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Joe Schulz, a former teacher, assistant principal, and now practicing attorney. Joe brings a unique perspective on parenting, education, and perseverance, drawn from 20 years in education and a bold career pivot into law. Together, we'll explore how parents can better connect with their kids, support their individual paths, and balance guidance with autonomy. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, let's start off by giving our listeners a little bit more information about your background in education and then what originally drew you into working with kids and families.
I know a lot of people, when they get the teaching bug, they're like, I want to become a teacher. I want to work with kids. I'm passionate about it. I want to change the future. I want to impact the world by shaping young minds. And I came from a very small town. And because of the size of the town I lived in, the biggest employer was the school district. And to me, it wasn't just that teachers had that, powerful effect over kids. It was that they were the pillars of the community. These are the people they were the Lions Club members. They were the Knights of Columbus. They were the Masons. They were in every Christmas parade the town had because they're also the alders at the church. They're the ushers at the church. You see them. Some of them were part-time business owners. So the local restaurant, the local dry cleaning service, the teacher owned that, or their family was involved in it somehow. And because their family was involved in it, they were part of it. So you'd see them on the weekend. To me, educators were part of that fabric, that were part of those pillars of the community. So I wanted to get into education at the beginning because I wanted to be part of that. I think teachers help build communities. And part of that is growing and shaping the minds and the mindset of kids to how to conform to community standards. So I think that's really what drew me to it.
Absolutely. That community piece of teaching, I think we have that in common as well. I'm a former teacher and it's like you want to make the impact, you want to be there, you want to support all of those ways that you can kind of touch and interact with those families, right? What inspired then the career change to going from education to law and what was that journey like for you?
Uh, there's a lot of motivations in them. Um, I think my family was a big piece of it. I love them very much. I want to be able to give them the world. And like every educator knows this and feels this. You'll never get rich in education. It's a great job. It gives you time because we do have our summers off. Well, not really. We're always doing professional development throughout the summers, but I mean, I don't have the normal 9 to 5 job 365 days out of the year. I have time and space. When there's holiday times, the school shut down, so I get to be completely with. I get to put all my time and energy into them when I'm that. One of the saddest moments I've ever had, and I think a lot of working parents will get this. The day after Christmas, you're driving to work. It's been a long time since I had driven to work the day after Christmas, 20 years of education. But, that's part of the give of it. I wanted to give them more. Even though I had that time with them, I don't got the money. I have time. And so you make use of the time. I wanted to make more money to give them the things that I want them to have because that's just what I want to do for them. But another big part of my pivot into law was that I was an administrator at campus and I was in an annual review dismissal. So for the people who don't know that, that's the ARD meeting that kids have if your child in special education services. And the parent at the time was just not pleasant at all. This had been like a month of Mondays had happened. There's a lot good building up to this moment, but we're in this meeting. This parent's not being nice. They're being rude. They're being hostile. And of course, you're trying to mitigate and move on, you're just trying to get through a meeting right now. And at one point, the parent who was an attorney, is an attorney, says, I'm an attorney, right? And I looked at him and I said, and so what? What does that have to do with what we're talking about? I lost my cool, lost my composure, and I snapped back at him. We got through the meeting. I had a conversation with my boss after that. I wonder why. But I was so upset that somebody would use their authority for that, that that partly inspired me, like, at least let me go ahead and be on the same footing level. So if I was ever in that position again, I'm an attorney. Well, so am I. What does that do anything? We're here to talk about your kid, not talk about your ethical practices. Let's go. That was part of it. There's lots of reasons why I wanted that to happen. And then as I went to school and I was learning and doing and growing, I saw potential and opportunity. My eyes were open to what attorneys could do. Like with educators, we might be pigeonholed to what our certification says, but there's a very big difference between teaching seventh grade math and sixth grade math. It's similar, but it's different. Well, there's corporate attorneys and there's, you know, litigation attorneys. There's similarities, but then they're very different. And so you have a variety of possibilities to try different things out. And so I think that's kind of what led me to it. And so far, so good.
Yes, yes. I think too, you bring up an interesting point about this kind of like hostile conversation with a parent at the table. We do have a couple other episodes where we've talked about like how to advocate for your child in the school because the primary audience is parents. Like we're talking to parents today.
Well, yeah.
And so anything I guess that you would want to tell parents when they come to the table, and we can just maybe continue on this conversation here real quick.
Oh,
But
sure.
when they come to the table for those ARD meetings, for the IEP meetings, 504, there's some complexity involved, multiple different, stakeholders within the school that have been working with the child. Do you have any tips for parents that how to best approach those kinds of conversations?
Um, I would say go from good area of good faith. You're the parent. You're choosing to send your child to that school. Now I know a lot of parents, that's the school I'm zoned to. My kid has to go there. No, they don't. You could send them to a charter school. You could pay the tuition and send them to a private school. You could move and go get a new place to rent, a new home, and a new zip code and go to that zip code school. You chose to be where you're at. So, in good faith, you're choosing to send them. Very, very few educators that I've ever worked with do not have the best intention in mind for your kid. They care about your kid. Go in good faith. It's going to be a good conversation. It's designed to set your child up for success. So don't go in there I've deemed the term an angry bird parent. Have you ever played the game Angry Birds? They
Yeah.
make that little sound as they're being launched. Don't be an angry bird parent. Go with the good intention that they mean to do good for you. So go in that. Go in with an agenda. Have some talking points. I'm not concerned about their math grade, their science grade. I'm concerned about their history grade. I mean, go in with the list of concerns to talk about. It's a whole meeting. They got a lot of information they want to share. They want to go with it. And more than likely, they will bring up that concern before you bring it up. They'll ask you at the beginning of the meeting, do you have any concerns? Here's my concern. Okay, great. We're going to talk about that. Let's go through they have an agenda. The art facilitators have an agenda set forth. There's things because by law, they have to talk about certain things with you. You have to be informed as a parent. So they're there for you. Express it. When you're there, listen. It's okay to ask questions. But
Yes.
remember, it's a conversation and it's a meeting. It's a formal meeting. So get through it, conduct yourself as if you were trying to get a loan from a bank.
Mm,
If you talk to people in a way that you want something from them, you're more likely to come off as a professional. Some parents need some help with that, some parents don't. So,
yeah. I think
go
you
in with good faith.
For sure. I think you bring up a good point too of like the educators on the other side of the table, they have the best intentions too.
Of
And
course.
so sometimes when those conflicts arise in those meetings, it's because of like a miscommunication, but really realistically, everyone's aligned on wanting what's best. It's a matter of like what gives and takes can there be within the system or within the relationship in order to help facilitate that, right?
Of course.
Um, so I want to kind of think a little bit more personally because you did mention you have a family and children. So, how has your experience in education and leadership shaped the way that you parent your children today?
Oh, wow. Um, I think I remember conversations that my parents had with me as I was growing up. I remember I was a teenager. I was already in high school, and my dad had this very serious conversation with me because he was concerned about beer. If you go to a party and they're drinking beer, I don't want you drinking beer. There's alcohol in this house. So if you want some, I'd rather you sit here at home and drink with me. I don't want you going somewhere. I don't want you get into a situation where you become a drunk driver or get hit by one or get in a wreck and die. I don't want that. Don't be going out places and drinking, Joe. All right. That was hard for my dad to have that conversation with me. Now, little did my dad know that the kids that I went to school with, I was 17 at this point. They were doing marijuana when they were 12. By the age of 14, the rich kids, they were snorting cocaine. Like, I don't think alcohol was the biggest problem that you need to have. I didn't do any of that because it just wasn't my thing. I didn't do drugs. I didn't do alcohol because there's no point in it. I knew a lot of people drank when I was growing up because, like, it's the thrill. I got away with it. My parents didn't know, hee hee ha ha. Well, my parents had a full open bar. My dad never touched this stuff, which I thought was the most ironic thing in the world. But I grew up in a household that alcohol was available, but nobody really partook in it. Nobody was getting blasted every Saturday night. It was there if you wanted it. If guests came over, it was there to serve them. And so it was never a big deal. So when I saw other kids doing it, I was, it's not a big deal to me. And I'm kind of a stick in the mud. I'm not going to lie. Let's be honest. It's not in me to do that. But I remember my dad having that conversation. And then I fast forward to when my kid was 2 years old. And I was looking at my dad. We were just talking about something completely different. And I thought how hard it was for him to have that conversation. And I started thinking about the world my child was growing up in. My parents never sat me down and let's have a gender identity conversation. Let's have a pronoun conversation. My parents didn't have that. They would not have the capacity to do it. I always have this conversation with my wife. She and I grew up in a very rural part of Texas. We are geared toward being parents of a rural child. People are in 4-H, FFA, show a steer at the local county show, that type of thing. Yeah, we are geared for that. My kids live in the suburbs. I'm not equipped to raise a suburban child. I don't understand these things. And so being at schools, I've been forced around situations that I never had to deal with my own children. I never gave my parents this issue growing up. You know, what do you do when two kids start fighting and one of them pulls out a knife and starts trying to stab the other person? It's like, whoa, it got real serious real fast, didn't it? I never dealt with that when I was in high school. Most people don't. Some people grow up in that environment, but some don't. Most people don't. So I never thought I had to have a conversation with my kids about, hey, I want to talk about not fighting. Hey, I want to talk about not bringing contraband to school. Hey, don't bring guns. Don't bring drugs. Don't bring knives. These are things you should not bring. I had those conversations with my kids because something happened at school. We'd be sitting down at dinner. What happened at work today, Daddy? Okay. I never told y'all this before, and I would give them the age appropriate version of it, but things would happen. And suddenly it's like, I remember every time I talked to these kids in the aftermath as the administrator, why did you do that? Was the question. Well, I don't know. Well, didn't your parents ever tell you not to do that? No, not really. Fighting like is the biggest issue for me. If you don't want your kids to fight at school, you have to flat out tell them, don't fight. And they won't fight. The kids who do fight, it's because their parents gave them the green light. And it sounds something like this. I don't want you fighting at school, but if somebody lays hands on you, you lay hands on them back. If somebody takes a swing at you, you swing back, and you better win that fight. Okay, the parents who say that, I'm not against what they're saying, because again, I believe somebody puts hands on you, yeah, it's a completely okay to put hands back, but you just authorize your kid to fight at school. I guarantee you, they're 85% more likely to have a fight at school. If you're going to tell your kid it's okay if they swing back, that's fine. Tell them the half of it. If they swing, swing back. But when you get in that administrator's office, you're going to get consequences. You just take them and be done. So that's kind of like that piece of it. So I think parents need to be mindful about what they're telling their kids to do at school, because for all the choices that we do, there's consequences for our choices. Some are positive consequences, some are negative consequences. But I think to re- circle back to the question that you have, I keep going in tangents. I need to stop doing that. Being an administrator, being a teacher, being around other people's kids all day long and seeing them do interesting things makes me aware that there's interesting things I don't want my children to do. And if I never tell them, they don't know. And I say that to parents, like, don't think your kids know better. Don't think, oh, I took them to church and the pastor said this, the minister said this, the priest said that. They're not paying attention. You're barely paying attention. They're definitely not paying attention. Like, if you as a parent don't tell your kids, this is the standard, this is the line. If you don't tell them, nobody is. And you should be the first one as the parent to tell your kids what the standard of living is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even as a classroom teacher, we only had 30 kids. I was an elementary school teacher. And so you think about the backgrounds, the family lives of each of those children and like the mix, right? That's happening in just one classroom, let alone a whole school or a district. Um, you know, everyone has different rules. And like the way that I approach it with my kids is like everyone has different rules for their family. Everyone has different ways of doing things. We see that. When we go to the grocery store, there's different kind of expectations for behavior. I do a little pep talk. I have 6 children. And so I do a little pep talk before we walk into the store. People already just eyes on us because there's a ton of us as we walk through the store. And I'm like, okay, we're going to stay by mom. We're going to stay by the cart. Like, I need to make sure that you are in my line of sight. We're not running through the aisles. And we're respectful. Like, we're aware of other people in the store as well so that we can like move out of the way or stay to one side. But we have that pep talk, I would say nearly like 90% of the time before we walk into a store because they need that reminder too. So even if you've had the conversation, it's good to have reminders. So like when they go back to school after summer break, have the conversation again about what that kind of appropriate behavior is like. Spring break, winter break, maybe you had like a 3-day weekend. That should be happening on Tuesday morning when you send them back to school. So I love that perspective that you bring too of like, I have witnessed other children and family dynamics, and then you've kind of internalized that for your own family. And I think that that's a reflective practitioner, right? Like if we're reflective parents, we should be looking and seeing like, well, how do I want my children to kind of navigate this world that we're living in? And, um, you know, being respectful of others, I think is maybe like a common foundation that we all hope to have for our children is, can you please be respectful of others? And I think that leads into your fighting, mention as well of like, okay, defending yourself is one thing, throwing the first punch is another. So, absolutely, absolutely. Well, I want to shift gears a little bit to focus more in on your experience as an educator. And, one of the things that parents often feel is that college is the only path to success. And
Hmm.
so based on your experience, how do you think that parents should be thinking about education today?
I think every parent, I think what you said right now, when you're reliving what it was like having those different personalities, 30 different ones in the classroom, same thing. Parents all come from different walks of life. They come from different backgrounds, different perspectives. And I was thinking about this recently. Part of what I've done as an attorney, I was an immigration attorney for a while before I became corporate counsel. But it made me think about the immigrant mindset. A lot of people will immigrate to the US and they take on these jobs. They start these businesses. They're running a restaurant. They're running 15 dry cleaner locations. They're doing something of that effect. And they want their child to become a medical doctor. And they are like hell bent on making sure that this child becomes a medical doctor. Because for the immigrant mindset, if I get in the first generation American, my kid, they become an MD. That vindicates every decision I have made to leave my home country and come here. Vindication. I made the right choice. My child became something. They became a pillar of the community. They became a very specialized person. Boom. It's vindication for your own decisions. But you're a successful business owner. Why are you not teaching your kid the business? Why on earth would you send your kid to undergraduate, medical school, 8 years of what is that, like $340,000 worth of debt? Like, don't get me wrong, if they become an MD, they should be able to get out of it pretty quick. But still, like, you have a thriving business that's making almost 7 figures every year. Some years you're making 7 figures. Why aren't you letting your kid figure out how to take the reins and turn that into an 8 figure income stream? It's how people think. Mhm. There's a certain prestige for college. I will be the first one. I have my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, my doctorate in education, and my JD. So I am the most overly educated person in the world, and this sounds strange coming from me, but college is not for everyone. It's not designed for everyone. People have to think about education, formal education, post high school, the tool that fits you. And so it's those choices for it. We come as parents with our own biasness. If I were a plumber and my kid became a plumber, no big deal. That's not bad at all. I've lived that lifestyle. I know that lifestyle. I got the business. I know the entry. I'm gonna bring the kid in. I'm gonna show them the ropes, send them on their way. Not a big deal. I'm proud that they're following my footsteps. But if my kid became an engineer, wow. From plumber to engineer in one generation, that's amazing. If my kid became an MD, if my kid became a lawyer, oh, wow. There's something about we are wanting to make sure our kids live certain dreams we never lived. And that can be a good thing, and it can be a problem because at the end of the day, our children are their own personalities. They have their own minds. They have their own ideas. Some of them are very much aligned with yours because you raised them. You've instilled certain values and ticks, prejudices, uh, racist thoughts, whatever it is. Like, things happen over time because they're handed down generation to generation. If there's a trend that you didn't like in your family, you as an individual have to be mindful about breaking those habits, breaking those thoughts so that it stops with you and your future generations don't have that. But people have implicit biasness. And, it revolves around money. There are some industries that make more money than others. When people think of a welder, they don't think of a wealthy person. When people think of a medical doctor, they think of somebody who's rich. And so there's this biasness that I want my child to live that easy, richer life. Doctors work hard. 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school. If you're a very skilled surgeon, you're talking 8 to 12 years of residency. They still haven't made any money. And they're very highly, highly trained. It took a lot of effort to get there. They got to medical school, they're going to be. No, teachers, doctors, lawyers, engineers, you can get a degree from university. Doesn't mean anything because if you don't pass that certification test. So we're all thinking about, you got to get to that right school. You got to get the right diploma, that piece of paper. That's not the paper that's important. Your certification is. You're an attorney. Did you pass your bar exam? You're a doctor. Did you pass your boards? You're an engineer. There's a state certification test for that. If you want to be a welder, guess what? There's a skills test that they have to perform before they go to every site to prove that they're capable of doing that. And if they fail that test, they don't get to work. So we have this mindset about the wrong thing, and we value education as an institution. College is good. I think it's important for the people who go, but not every kid does. And so as a parent, you have to look at and really have that open conversation with your children about, but what do you want to do? This generation of kids, our kids, will run into Legos or Minecraft. Probably both.
I was gonna say I've
No.
got both out there.
So, and the Minecraft people are going to get so mad at me for saying this. We're about to be canceled. Minecraft is online Legos. I said it. Nobody's going to convince me different, but this is what I mean. You have a kid who prefers to play Minecraft. They like to build online. Okay, maybe there's a disposition there for 3D, three-dimensional thought design. Maybe that's an unknown skill set that the kid is destined to be an architect. Let them explore that. What if the kid likes Legos? It's concrete. I'm still building, I'm still connecting things, and maybe I'm really good at it and do all these cool things, but it's hands-on. It's not online. It's not 3D conceptual. It's actually kinesthetic, and I can see it happening. Maybe that kid is meant to be a builder. Like literally, they're the superintendent of the construction site. They're literally the craftsman who's creating things. What's the difference between an architect and a craftsman? Your hands, how dirty they get with the material. That's really the big difference. They're both creating the same thing, but they had different expressions for it. And so your kids will naturally start gravitating towards certain things. And I hate to tell parents this, but it's true. As we were growing up, what do you want to do for a living? I want to be a video game tester. I want to play video games for a living. Well, that's not a good thought. PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, they actually pay people pretty good wage to be a beta tester to play the game. People who are on Twitch can sit there and just play games all day, like 2-3 hours a day, and people will watch the video of them playing and send them money. Like it's a legit thing to say, I want to do that. Now, how do you go about doing it? There's a whole skill set that goes about building that brand and everything, but
Right.
it's not out of the possibility. So when people look at education, should my kid go to college? What does your kid want to do? I think the worst advice we can give our kids is to go to college just to go. Go with intention. I heard I heard somebody say this one time. Everybody hates their job. Even if you love your career, you're going to hate your job. And they are right. There's been times like I loved what I did in education. I love what I'm doing in law. There are times when I was at work in education that I loved what I did. I loved how I helped people. I loved to help kids and parents and teachers. But man, I hated going there. I just hated that place. I didn't feel like it. I didn't want to be there. Like I just hated it. I heard somebody say one time, your children should not be going to school to get a degree in something they like. Get a degree in business, get a degree in finance. You're going to hate your job, hate a job that gets you paid, which goes back to that money motivates. And I will say this, I don't believe money is real. I know it's important. If you go to the grocery store, I want groceries, I have to exchange money for the groceries. I want to take my kids to a restaurant, I got to exchange money for the meal. You want to go to the movies, I got to exchange money for the ticket. Like money is necessary. But I just don't think it's real because it's not having the money that makes sense. It's leading the lifestyle that you want to lead. It's having the experiences, taking your kids on it. I think Disney does a really good job of capturing this because they're about making little moments, memories, and experiences. They're very, very expensive. It costs you an arm, a leg, and your left kidney to go nowadays.
Right.
And if you got more than 2 kids, I'm sorry, Jessica, you're gonna have
I
to sell
know.
that other kidney and a couple of other organs, maybe your
I
lung.
don't have
You don't
enough.
need the left side of your brain, do
There's
you?
nothing left of me.
So I mean, but when you go,
Yeah.
it's already paid for. The kids have like the funnest, most wonderful time there. And as a parent, you're just happy to see them doing it. My dad took me on a roller coaster when I was young. I don't know how much he paid to get into the theme park. I think it was Fiesta, Texas that he took me to. I don't know what he paid to get me in. He had some money exchange, but I remember being on that coaster next to him, going up and down, having like the time of my life doing it. because I remember that shared experience of being there with him. And so those are the things that we remember. Those are the things that matter. Those moments of joy and happiness of being together. That's what matters. It costs money to do. And so you have to look at education as a tool for how are you going to live your life. I think parents should have a sit down conversation about how do we have a budget? How do we stay within our budget?
Yes.
You want to go do something. Okay, cool. It costs this much. How do you save up to go do that? That's are the conversations you have. The more money you make, the faster you get to go do the thing you want to do. It's like I said earlier, you can have a career that makes you a lot of money, but you have no time. Law. You could have a career that gives you a lot of time, but no money. Education.
Yeah.
It's what you do with it. You can have the money, you could have the time, but if you're not investing it in your kids and your family and spending and having those quality times. I love the holidays because I always had all that time off. Thanksgiving, Christmas period, New Year's. I love those times because I'm off. I'm not at work. I'm there with them. You wake up and you're spending that quality time with each other. Our days are so busy. Think about my typical morning. Kids are still going to school. I have to go to work, get up at 5 a.m. I'm working out because I got to work out. Then I'm in the kitchen. I'm making breakfast. I'm getting all the lunches ready for the day. My wife and I are doing we're this little efficient team together. And, we're taking shifts. We both worked out. She's going to the shower. I'm taking over in the kitchen. She goes to the shower. I run to the shower. She takes over in the kitchen. We're just this little unit working together. The kids are dressed. Quick, go into the kitchen. Start consuming food. We have to leave. Time is happening. We need to move now. Go, 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 go. Oh, look, there's the news. Ha, ha, ha. That's an interesting little news story. That's something to talk about on the drive in. Get your stuff. Let's go. Driving. You having a great day, son? Everything's going good. Great, great, great. Okay, get out. Go. Now I'm leaving going on. I had 20 minutes in the car with my kid that I talked about things that are going on, what's happening. And I'm trying to maximize my 20 minutes because the next time I see him, it's going to be around 6:30 tonight.
Right.
So I dropped him off at 7:40. I'll see him at 6:30. 11 hours later, I'll see him. What happened in 11 hours? Things happened to me too. I did a podcast. I have something to talk about. But I mean, we live our lives, and then most people, they go to work, they're busy, 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 they're doing work, 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 and they get home. By the time you get home, I'm thinking about I need to make sure that I'm getting all the laundry done that needs to be done. I got to get the cooking done in the kitchen. I got to do the cleaning up afterwards. Are you doing your homework? Thank God it's May. Kids aren't doing homework anymore. Oh my goodness. The stress is off of, okay, you got to do that. But I mean, typically you got to do this, you got to do that. I'm managing to make sure that kids are doing what they need to do. They're studying, you're doing this. We have all these activities. Go, go, go. Oh God, it's 10:30. Brush your teeth.
Let's
Get
go.
ready for bed. Come on, let's go, let's go, let's go.
Right.
Okay, quick. All the lights off. Love you. Good night.
Do it all again the next day.
And you wake up and do it all over again. So the time we spend with the people we love is very finite in our typical day. So when people think about what school should my kid go to, you've spent the majority of your day away from your kid. You have to take the time that you have with them to learn and know them. So you have to spend those quality moments. It doesn't have to be a lot. You don't have to spend hours and hours with them. You have to spend 20, 30 minutes with your kid because your life is busy. You still got to clean up the dirty dishes. You still got to go do something else. Or I got to go into the office and I got to put in a couple more hours into work because I didn't get it done during the day. Whatever it is, we're busy in our lives. So the moments that we have with our family, the moments we have with our kids, we have to learn them. And education is that tool because if you know the disposition your child has, guide them toward that. Take away your own biasness. A guy who grew up being a lawyer does not want their kid to grow up being a plumber. The reality is the lawyer might be making $45 an hour and the plumber might be making $95 an hour. The plumber will work throughout the year. Well, the lawyer will work throughout the year. And at the end of it, the plumber's going to make more money. Again, you have these two careers that have very little time, but they're going to make a lot of money. What do they do on the weekends when they're free? How are they spending that? How are they investing their time back into their family and recharging themselves to get ready for the crazy work week? We have to listen to our kids to figure out what is their skill set, what is their disposition, because every child has a natural disposition towards something. Some kids are thinkers, some kids are doers. Some kids are mechanically inclined, some kids have a 3D conception of the world. It's different. If you have a big family, you have a big family, you're going to be shocked at how, like, why is not all it's the same kid, it's the same mom, it's the same dad, same household. Why are they so different?
The beauty of it
Because
all.
they're just, every child is wired differently and
Yes.
nobody's the same, even within families. And so you have to find the things that make them spark. Some kids are just more artistic. Some kids are more analytical in thinking. And so you have to find where their strengths are and guide them to that. And then the budget conversation. This is how you use education. The budget conversation is not how to sit and, this is how you budget for the month and everything. The budget conversation is, what do you want to do? What's the life experience you want to have? Some people think going to Tahiti and laying on the beach is like the high life of life. Some people think that hiking and backpacking through, Denali National Park, going up those crazy frozen mountain trains. That's the highlight of living. High, crazy cold mountains, tropical beach. They're very different. Some people think, I want to go see the great things of the world. I want to go see the pyramids in Giza. I want to go see the Parthenon in Greece. They want to be travelers. They want to go do all these things. People have different ideas of what it is, and that all costs money. What type of lifestyle do you want to live? What do you want to do? Because you can have time, you can have money, but you've got to find that balance of both. And can you do what you want to do to get there? And so once people have figured that out, that's how you start guiding them into it and finding a pathway for them. And it's hard to do because you got your own biasness as a parent. You don't want your kid to do that job. I want them to do the same job as I have or better. And it's hard because what if my kid's a naturally born artist? Artists don't make money. Artists don't have a lifestyle. I don't want this kid 30 years old sleeping on my couch. But what if they are? What if there's a pathway for it? What if your kid is extremely expressive and they're a natural entertainer? What if they can pick up any instrument and just start playing it? Then maybe they're a natural musician, you know? But it's a tough line. I don't want my kid to go through that and struggle and not make it big. I want them to have something safe. And so we fall back on education. Sometimes our kids need passion. If you're an employer, most employers do not care what degree you have. They care about your attitude, they care about your work ethic, and they care about the experience you bring to the table. That's what they care about. Employers know, if you don't have experience, I can train skill into you. I can give you opportunities for experience. But if you have the right attitude, perfect. I can work with you. If you don't have the right attitude, I don't care what your experience, what your skill set is, you're not going to work out. And we have to think about our kids sometimes as if we were trying to hire them.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of parents, if they're honest with themselves, they wouldn't hire their kid because there's some deficiencies that they have. And it's really hard to honestly look at your kids and have that conversation with yourself about what are the deficiencies. Is it a deficiency because it makes them unemployable, or is it a deficiency because it's just not what they're interested in? So I think education is a tool designed to help you build the future lifestyle your kid wants to have. And again, it's their life, it's not yours. So you have to allow them to live it. Their success and their struggles will be their success and their struggles. And they're going to have to learn to deal with it. All you can really do is be the sage who gives good advice, and hopefully they'll take it. Nobody wants to see their child fail or struggle.
Right.
But maybe the kid needs to understand what it took and to appreciate the things that they grow and get.
Yeah, I think too, to your point, like it's very clear, right? Like you go into education because of the impact, right? So, and also like the time for your family. There's other careers that you could go into that's more like money motivated or driven. And it's like the balance, right? Like it doesn't mean you have to go all one way or the other. Like you can still live on a modest teacher salary. I mean, it's getting harder in maybe today's economy, but generally speaking, you can be frugal and still, support yourself as a teacher. And so I think too, when it comes to education, we've had another episode where we were talking about, you know, uh, a legacy, right? Like, oh, my kid, I went to Harvard, so my kid has to go to Harvard. And it's like, well, maybe that's not the right path for your kid. And of course, like you would hope that your child would want to, I think it Okay, let me take a step back because we homeschool our kids, and I think like this is like a very tangible sort of experience where it's like, okay, well, are they missing out on things because they're not going to public school? So are they missing out on things by not having the college experience where I might have felt like it was great. It was fun. It was social. Like I had all of these experiences. I'm doing my kid a disservice if I'm not setting them up to go to college. If they don't want to go to college, they're going to miss out on those opportunities and like that fun time of life, right? Like, so we have our internal bias, as you mentioned, of our experiences and how we've like qualified what we've been through. And that kind of little bit of parent guilt that comes in of like, oh, I'm withholding public education from my children because I'm homeschooling them. But I also feel very convicted that I need to teach my kids at home. I'm a teacher. This is my background, and I feel comfortable and confident in doing this for myself. So when it comes to that career transition or discussion, knowing that it's okay to be different, it's okay to not follow through on the path that you had envisioned your child. And I think like formulating it as a question, right? Like, what is interesting to you? Like, if they're really into art, they can make a living with art. They're just going to have to be creative, right? Like, but they're already creative. How can they create their brand? Um, and so I love that kind of perspective that you provide of like being open minded, having the conversation, looking at the skills that your child already has, and maybe even connecting them with people in those fields to explore what that career could look like. Talk about what their lifestyle's like. That's kind of the piece after that doesn't actually come. It's like, oh yeah, I want to be a teacher. It's like, okay, well, what does it actually look like on a teacher salary, right? Um, and so great perspectives today, Joe, honestly. So before we wrap up, there's one question that I want to ask from our Launch Family community. So we have a parenting guide called Emmy. And so families can actually write in and ask questions. And so I want to get your take on one of the questions that was written in. It says, how can I teach my kids that success doesn't have to look one specific way? So how can we help kids define success on their own terms while still being supportive, of course?
Success is something that can be measured in joy and satisfaction. There's a story, businessman from New York, very successful, uh, is taking a vacation with his family, and they're in Mexico, the small little village, and they charter a guide to take them out fishing one day. They have a lot of fun, and the guy is like really impressed with the fisherman. He's so polite and nice. They're having a conversation like, what do you do? Like when you're not chartering, what do you do? And the fisherman says, oh, I'll go out and I'll fish for 2 or 3 hours. I'll take my catch. I'll come in. We'll sell it at the market. And then I'll go home and I'll play with my wife, with my kids, and we have fun. Then I'll spend time with my wife and we'll talk. And then I'll play my guitar all night and I'll drink tequila with my friends. It's great. And the businessman's like, well, if you spent 8 hours a day fishing instead of just two, you could catch more fish. Well, and the fisherman's like, well, why would I do that? Oh, because then you could sell more fish and make more money. Well, why would I do that? Well, if you have more money, you can use it to hire some of your friends to go out and fish with you. Well, why would I do that? Because then you can catch more fish. Okay. What do I do with all the fish? You'd sell and have even more money. Okay, what do I do with that? Well, then you would go buy more boats and you could have a whole fleet of boats and you could get all the fish that you can. Well, why would I do that? Well, because then you could sell all the fish and you can make more money. Well, what do I do with that? You could go buy a canning factory. So then you can catch all the fish, put them in the factory, and you can sell all of that and you can make so much more money. He's like, oh, why would I do that? Because you'd have all the money then. Yeah, but what would I do with it? You know, so you could do the things you love, like play with your kids, spend time with your wife, and play guitar and sing and drink with your friends. And the fisherman's like, but I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
Talk about what is success. There's a level of joy and satisfaction that you do. And you can measure it in the struggle it took you to have that success. Whether it is a mundane activity like building a Lego set to completion, or putting together a model plane, or putting a puzzle together. I hate puzzles. My wife loves puzzles. I hate puzzles. But she gets this huge satisfaction in doing it. The amount of effort it takes for a person to do something and then to see it to its completion, that's satisfaction. That's success, measuring it. There will never be a dollar amount or a measuring stick they'll tell you that is successful. There are people who love what they're doing. They're enjoying what they're doing. They will pay people to do that simple thing. They love doing it. So when you look at satisfaction and success, it's an internal measuring stick per person. If somebody's lucky and if they're trained and good, they can figure out, how can I take this thing that I love to do and turn it into an income source? You know, to pay for all the bills that I need to be able to free up my time to do what I want. The most important commodity in the world is time. You cannot buy more of it. You cannot get it reimbursed back to you. Once it is used, it is spent. And so we have to figure out, how do we make the most of the time that we have to do and pursue the things that we love and the things that bring us joy and happiness, and maybe help other people to get their own journey to satisfaction done. And so those are the things to look for. And what does that look like for every person? It's an individual story. Luckily for lots of parents out there, whatever you do for a living, that job that you hate and don't like, that one, your kids admire you. They look up to you. They want to emulate you. They want to be just like you. So if you as a parent hate what you're doing, then you need to stand up and do something else. There was a time in my career, as much as I loved what I did in schools, I didn't like it. And got to a point where I hated doing it. I made a change and I went into law. And now I'm doing something completely different. And every day I wonder, like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? One of these days, if all the stars line up, I will hopefully be general counsel for a school district, which is really what I want to do. I'm not able to do that just yet. I'd love to do that. And, I figure, hey, I'm general counsel for a corporation right now. I'm learning and growing. I'm getting what's called transferable skills in this to move over there. Parents, if you're not happy with your life, if you're not happy with the way things are going, then that's a wake up call, because your kids are paying attention to you. They see you unhappy. They see you miserable. They see you angry and upset. Make a change.
Well, Joe,
Water.
thank you so much for sharing your incredible story and insights with us today. Your journey reminds us that education isn't just about schools, but it's about cultivating that curiosity, resilience, and self-direction at every stage of life. If you've loved today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and check the show notes to connect with Joe and hear more parenting stories that celebrate growth over perfection. Until next time, keep growing, keep learning, and keep letting your kids lead the way.